In school, they mocked me, left me out, made me the punchline. Years later, they show up smiling, calling me friend. But behind their sudden kindness was the truth. You never forget the sound of a cafeteria full of kids laughing at you. Not laughing with you, at you. That sound burns into your brain like a scar. It follows you. Echoes. I swear, even now, years later, I can still hear it. Back in middle school, I had a nickname I never asked for. Caveman Carl. Carl ain't even my name, but that's what they called me. Because of my thick eyebrows and the way my old hand-me-down clothes never quite fit right. I remember one kid, Josh Myers, made a whole act out of it. He would drag his knuckles on the ground and grunt whenever I walked by. The others would crack up like he was some kind of comedy god. And me? I would just keep walking, head down, pretending it didn't bother me. But it did. It crushed me. There was this one day, 7th grade, Taco Tuesday. I tried to sit at the edge of a table with some kids from homeroom. I had barely set my tray down when a girl named Kelly slid over and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Sorry, this seat's for humans only." The whole table howled. I remember gripping my milk carton so tight it burst open in my hand. That was my life for years. Invisible unless I was being mocked. Nobody invited me to birthday parties. No one picked me for group projects. Even teachers forgot I was there half the time. I was just that weird kid. The one who talked too quiet. Wore beat-up sneakers. Spent lunch in the library. If I ever tried to speak up, they would cut me off. Laugh. One time in history class, I corrected the teacher on a date I had read ahead in the textbook. The teacher looked surprised, but before she could even respond, Kyle Owens shouted, "Wow, Caveman can read now." The whole class cracked up again. I never spoke in class after that. So yeah, I learned early on. Keep your head down, work hard, disappear. That was the only way to survive. But funny thing about being ignored for so long, it gives you a lot of time to plan, to build, to imagine something better. And somehow I did. Because now I run my own company. I have a downtown office with a view. I wear suits tailored to fit me. People schedule meetings around my availability. They shake my hand like I matter. My name is on things now. Contracts, deals, checks. And just last week, I got a friend request from Josh Myers. Yeah, that Josh. He added a little message with it. "Hey man, long time. Saw your feature in Forbes. Would love to catch up sometime." I stared at that message for a long while. Not angry, just stunned. Like I was looking at a ghost who forgot the part he played in my story. And that was only the beginning. Because suddenly, they all started showing up. And they wanted something. But I remembered. Every single thing. The friend requests kept coming like ants to sugar. First it was Josh Myers, then Kelly, the one who told me I didn't qualify as human. Then came Kyle Owens, with some smiley face emoji and a message that said, "Bro, I always knew you'd go far. We should totally grab lunch sometime." Funny. Back in school, the only thing he grabbed was my backpack, just to dump it in the hallway. I scrolled through their profiles. Some of them had kids now. Some were selling leggings or crypto. A few had job titles like visionary entrepreneur or mindset coach, whatever that means. They all had that same tone though, like we had shared some golden years together. Like we were friends. But I remembered. I remembered how they laughed when I wore the same hoodie 4 days in a row because we could not afford more. I remembered the time someone stuck a post-it on my back during a fire drill that said, "Free fleas." I didn't even notice until the janitor pulled me aside. They had all watched. Most had joined in. Now, they were hitting like on my company's posts, congratulating me on interviews I had done. One even wrote under a photo of me speaking at a conference. Knew this guy back in school. Solid dude. Real proud of him. Solid dude. That same guy once shoved me into a locker and told me to stay there until you evolve. What hit me hardest was not just the messages. It was how casual they were. How easily they acted like none of it happened. Like I was just one of the gang all along. But I never forgot what it felt like to eat lunch in the stairwell. To pretend I had a stomach ache just so I could sit in the nurse's office instead of being around them. The irony? They were noticing me now more than they ever did back then. But it was not because they cared. It was because they saw something they wanted. That became clear when Josh sent another message. This one was longer. He said he had a project he thought I might be interested in. Said it could be a mutually beneficial collaboration. His message ended with, "Let's reconnect, man. We go way back." I sat there staring at those words. We go way back. Yeah, we did. But I took a very different road. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift inside me. Not bitterness. Not pride. Clarity. Because now, I had the power to say no. And they were just getting started. I had just poured myself a cup of black coffee when I saw her name pop up on my phone. Kelly Abrams. Back in school, Kelly was the queen bee. She had the kind of beauty that made teachers smile too long and other girls pretend to like her out of survival. But it wasn't just her looks. It was the way she could slice someone to pieces with a single sentence, all while pretending to be sweet. Her message was short. Just said, "Hey stranger. Long time. Would love to catch up if you're ever in town." Smiling face with smiling eyes. The emoji was the same one she used after making me cry in 8th grade. That memory hit like a slap. It was picture day. I had finally convinced my mom to let me wear my older cousin's nice button-up. It was too big, but I tucked it in and tried to make it work. I even used gel in my hair, made it all stiff and spiky. I walked into school feeling, not cool, but at least like maybe I wouldn't get laughed at for once. Kelly saw me in the hallway, pointed, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, look, Caveman Carl is trying to evolve." Everyone cracked up. One guy even took a fake picture with me like I was some zoo exhibit. That was the last time I ever bothered trying to dress up for school. And now here she was, pretending like we had been old pals. Pretending like none of that ever happened. Like I would just forget who she used to be. Out of curiosity, I clicked on her profile. She worked in marketing for some wellness brand. Had a golden retriever, a boyfriend who looked like he could be cast in a reality show, and a highlight reel full of yoga poses and beach sunsets. Her life looked perfect. But then again, so did her smile when she destroyed people. And then I saw it, the post. She had reshared one of my interviews. The one where I talked about building my business from nothing. She added a caption that made my stomach twist. So proud of this guy. Knew him in school. He always had potential. That was not true. She never saw potential. None of them did. I stared at that post for a while. Not sure if I felt disgusted or amused. Maybe both. I did not reply to her message. I just let it sit there, unread. Because some things do not deserve a response. But I knew more was coming. And I was right. The next message was from the last person I ever expected. And this one hit way deeper. The next message came on a Wednesday morning, right before a big investor call. I was reviewing some notes, half-focused, when I saw a name that made my stomach drop. Kyle Owens. I had not heard that name in over a decade, but my body remembered it. Kyle was not just any bully. He was the bully. Tall, popular, charming to adults, but a sadist when no one was looking. The kind of guy who could twist a gym towel so tight it snapped across your back like a whip, then laugh when you flinched. He made my life a living nightmare all through middle and most of high school. I opened the message. "Hey man, I came across your company page the other day. Wild to see how far you've come. Congrats on all the success. I run a local small business now too. Would love to connect sometime and maybe swap ideas or even collaborate if you're open to it." He ended it with a thumbs up emoji. A thumbs up. That same hand once slammed my face into a locker in the freshman hallway while shouting, "Open up, it's feeding time," because I was holding a granola bar. I still remember the clatter of my books hitting the floor. The laughter that followed. The way the janitor looked at me and then just kept walking. Kyle had never once apologized. Never once acted like what he did was wrong. And now here he was, talking like we were old colleagues at some reunion, like I had just transferred schools and not spent 4 years under his boot. I clicked on his profile. He owned a car detailing business. Married, 2 kids, couple photos of family trips to the lake. Looked like he had grown up. But people like Kyle, they always knew how to look polished. That was their trick. Still, part of me was tempted. Not out of kindness, but out of curiosity. Did he really not remember? Did he just assume I had forgotten? Then I read his message again, and something hit me. He never once said sorry. Not even a hint. Not a single line that said, "I was a jerk to you back then, and I regret it." Nothing. Just fake warmth. Opportunistic charm. I closed the message. I did not reply, but I also did not block him, because part of me was curious how far he would go. And sure enough, the next day, he showed up in my office lobby. Uninvited. And that was when things got real. When my assistant buzzed and said there was a Mr. Owens in the lobby, I thought it was a coincidence. I even said, "What's his first name?" She replied, "Kyle." My stomach dropped. I stared at the phone for a few seconds, thinking maybe I had misheard. But no, Kyle Owens. Here, at my building. After over a decade of silence. and one forced smile message. He decided to show up in person. I told her to send him up. Part of me wanted to see his face. I needed to. When the elevator doors opened, there he was, wearing a pressed button-up, nice shoes, hairstyled like he had watched a tutorial that morning. But even with all the upgrades, I recognized him immediately. Same walk, same fake confidence. That smirk he used to wear in the halls, just dulled by a few years and a touch of desperation. He reached out his hand like we were old pals. I did not shake it. Instead, I said, "You could have just sent a second message." He laughed, brushing it off. "Yeah, man, I figured face-to-face is better. Emails get lost, you know?" He sat down without waiting to be invited. Just like he used to back in school. Take what he wanted, no questions asked. He talked fast. Said he was trying to expand his business, looking for local partnerships, maybe even a feature on our company's site or a joint promo. "We've both come a long way, huh?" he said, grinning like we were teammates who had made it out of some war together. I watched him for a while. Just watched. And all I could think about was the day in sophomore year when he snuck up behind me during gym, yanked down my shorts in front of everyone, and shouted, "Ladies, avert your eyes." The class lost it. I remember standing there, frozen, red-faced, trying not to cry. I skipped school the next day. Maybe the day after too. Now here he was, asking for a collaboration. So I asked him a question. "Do you remember what you used to call me?" He blinked, shifted in his chair. "Man, we were kids. Everyone messed around." I nodded. "Sure, but do you remember?" He looked away. "Come on, it was high school." Still no answer. Still no apology. I stood up and walked to the window. Took a long breath. Then I said, "Kyle, this company was built by the kid you humiliated every day. It was built by the one you made eat lunch in a bathroom stall just to avoid hearing his own name twisted into jokes. You remember him now?" Silence. He stood up too, finally realizing this was not going the way he had planned. "I was young," he mumbled. "We all were." I turned to face him. "And I grew up. I made something. I moved on. But I did not forget. I just finally realized. I don't owe you anything." I walked to the door and opened it. He paused, looked at me like he wanted to say something else, but couldn't find the words. Then he left. No handshake. No eye contact. Just a silent retreat. I stood there for a while after he was gone. Not angry. Not proud. Just steady. Because for the first time, I had been the one who closed the door. But there was still someone else waiting to knock. Someone I thought I would never hear from again. It was late. My office had cleared out. The cleaning crew was already pushing carts down the hall, and I was wrapping up some emails when I noticed a new voicemail. No name. Just a number I did not recognize. I almost ignored it, but something made me press play. And the second I heard the voice, I froze. It was Mr. Lane, my old guidance counselor. I had not heard that name in over 15 years. But that voice, soft, a little raspy from too much coffee and too many years trying to be patient with lost kids, hit me like a freight train. He said, "Hey, I hope this is still your number. I saw your article in the business journal. It made me proud, and I wanted you to know I remember. I remember how hard it was for you, how unfair it all felt. I always wished I had done more. I'm sorry for not standing up when it mattered. If you ever want to talk, you've got my number now. Either way, I'm glad you made it." I just sat there, holding the phone. Back in school, Mr. Lane was the only adult who saw through the surface. He never fixed anything. Never stepped in when Kyle or Josh or Kelly went too far. But he noticed. He once pulled me aside after I failed a math test and asked if everything was all right. I lied, told him I was just tired. He nodded and said, "You carry more weight than most kids your age. I hope you drop it someday." I never did. I just learned how to carry it differently. Hearing his voice again, out of nowhere, was like someone had cracked open a door I had long since bricked up. And it came just in time. Because the very next morning, I got an email. No subject line. Just 2 words. "It's Mom." That was when I knew this story wasn't just about old classmates anymore. It was about something deeper. Something I had buried and locked away. And now, it was knocking louder than ever. The email sat there in my inbox all morning. "It's Mom." No punctuation. No explanation. Just that. I must have hovered over it for 10 full minutes before I clicked. The message was short. Just a few lines. "I saw your interview. I am proud of you. I know we were not close, but I always believed in you. If you ever feel like talking, I would love to hear your voice again." That was it. No mention of the silence that lasted nearly 13 years. No mention of the birthdays missed, the holidays I spent alone, the day I graduated college and sat in the front row scanning a crowd that never included her. Just a compliment, a soft request, and a smiley face emoji that made my chest ache. Let me back up. I grew up with a mom who made it clear that surviving was the priority. Not connection, not warmth, just getting through. She was not cruel, not in the dramatic, movie mom kind of way. But she was absent, even when she was there. If I cried after school because someone had humiliated me, she would tell me to toughen up. If I came home with a bloody lip, she would hand me a paper towel and say, "This world is not for soft boys." She loved my older brother. He was the golden child, the charmer, the one who got out of trouble with a wink and a laugh. She would call him my strong one. Me? I was the quiet one, said with a tone like it was a flaw. I stopped expecting her to notice when I needed help. I stopped asking for rides, stopped telling her about my day. I handled it all on my own, even when it hurt. Especially when it hurt. By the time I turned 18, we barely spoke. I moved out the second I could, and she did not fight it. Did not call. Did not visit. And now? Now she wanted to reconnect. Because of an article. Because of some press and a few thousand likes on social media. I sat there at my desk, staring at that message, feeling everything and nothing at the same time. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. I wanted to hit delete. I wanted to hit reply. Instead, I did nothing. I just shut my laptop and stared at the window for a long time. Because that message? It reminded me of something I had been avoiding this whole time. This whole journey, every bit of success, every sleepless night, every win, it was never about them. It was about proving I mattered, even when no one had said it out loud. But here was the question echoing in my head. Why was I still waiting for people who never chose me to finally say the words I needed to hear? I did not have the answer yet, but I knew I was getting closer. And then the phone rang. It was someone who had not said my name since senior year. This time, they wanted something. The voice on the other end of the phone was too cheerful to be real. "Hey, is this really you?" It took me a second to place it. Then it clicked. Seth Darnell. Another name I had tucked away in the mental basement marked people who made me hate mornings. Seth was not the kind of bully who pushed you into lockers. He was worse. He was the guy who smiled in your face while stealing your homework. The one who would act like your friend just long enough to get something, then laugh about it later with his real friends. In senior year, he invited me to a group study session. I actually thought maybe things were turning around. I showed up with all my notes, ready to help out. Turns out the study session was a prank. He recorded me giving a long, nervous explanation of the Pythagorean theorem, then posted it to some group chat with the caption, "Caveman teaches cave math." He never spoke to me again after that. Until now. His voice had that oily smoothness people develop after too many networking events. He dropped compliments like confetti. "I saw your talk at the conference. Man, that was inspiring stuff. You've really built something amazing. Honestly, I always knew you had it in you." He said it like he had played some part in it. Then came the pitch. He had started a consulting firm, which, after a quick Google search, was just a glorified Instagram page and a PayPal link. He wanted to partner on something. Said my brand could benefit from some grassroots local buzz. I asked him how he got my number. "Oh, Kelly gave it to me," he said. "She mentioned you guys were tight." I nearly laughed out loud. Tight. She once told a substitute teacher I had selective mutism, just so I would not get called on in class. But now we were apparently tight. I let Seth talk for a while. Something about co-hosting a networking event, leveraging mutual audiences, creating synergy. I finally cut in. "Seth, what do you actually remember about me from high school?" There was a pause. Then he said, "Man, I remember you were quiet. But like, smart quiet, you know? Smart quiet. Like that made up for everything else." I told him I was not interested. That I was not doing collabs, not looking for press, not in the business of helping people rewrite their memories. He tried to laugh it off. "No worries, no pressure. Just thought it'd be cool to team up. You know, old friends." Old friends. It was like they had all attended a secret meeting where they decided to pretend we had shared inside jokes instead of trauma. I hung up before he could say anything else. That night, I went home and sat in the dark for a while. Just me and the hum of the fridge. And I finally asked myself the question I had avoided for too long. Why was I still letting any of them live rent-free in my head? And that question? It led to something I never expected to do next. I went back to the one place I swore I would never return. It had been nearly 17 years since I last stepped into that building. The bricks looked the same, faded red, like they were always a little tired. The front steps creaked beneath my shoes, even though I was wearing expensive soles now. I stood there for a minute, just staring at the sign, Lincoln High School. Funny how a place so small could feel so large in your memory. I had flown in for a conference in the area. Decided to drive by, just out of curiosity. But when I saw the building, something pulled me in. I needed to see it. Not for them, for me. The halls were quieter than I remembered, the echo of my footsteps sounding like a drum in a gymnasium. I half expected some kid to shove me into a locker again, or hear that awful nickname whispered behind a door. But there was nothing, just silence. And memories. I walked past the cafeteria, stood by the table where Kelly once flipped my tray. I still remember the chili splattering across my jeans and the laughter that followed me all the way to the bathroom. I never wore those jeans again. Down the hall was Mr. Lane's old office. The door was new, but I still paused in front of it, remembering his tired eyes, the smell of burnt coffee, the way he always looked like he wanted to say more, but never did. And then, finally, the bathroom stall. The one where I ate lunch most days from 7th through 10th grade. I used to bring a book, prop it against my knee, and try not to cry when the toilet flushed next to me. Back then, I would have done anything just to be included. I would have changed my clothes, my voice, my entire self if it meant sitting at a table where people saw me as human. Now I owned a business, managed a team, had my own damn table. And yet, part of me was still holding that lunch tray, praying someone would scoot over and let me in. So I stood there, staring at that old stall, and something broke free. Not anger, not grief, something deeper. I whispered, "You made it out," like I was talking to the kid I used to be. Because I did. I did make it out. Without their help, without their acceptance, without their permission. And I never needed to walk back in that door again. But I had, on my own terms. And for the first time, I felt completely free. Because tomorrow I was going to do something none of them could take away or fake their way into. I was finally going to tell the truth. I stood behind the podium, looking out at the packed auditorium. It was a keynote for a national leadership summit, something I never thought I would even be invited to, let alone headline. Suits and notebooks filled the rows. A few hundred people, maybe more, all of them waiting to hear what I had to say. And there I was. No nickname, no mockery, just my real name, printed in bold on the screen behind me. I took a breath. My palms were steady. And I started. I did not talk about revenue streams or marketing funnels. I did not drop buzzwords or flex numbers. I told them the truth. My truth. I told them about being invisible, about cafeteria tables and bathroom stalls, about kids who called me names until I believed they were right. I told them about the silence that taught me to listen and the rejection that taught me to build. I told them how I carried shame like a backpack full of bricks, and how I slowly learned to set it down. And then I said something I never thought I would say out loud. Success did not erase the pain. It just showed me who I am without it. There was no dramatic music, no slow clap, just silence. The kind of silence you get when the room is actually listening. When I finished, they stood. Every single one of them. I should have felt triumphant, like I had finally won. But I did not feel like I had won. I felt like I had finally arrived. After the talk, I stepped outside for air. My phone buzzed. Notifications, messages, friend requests, likes, and mixed in another message. From Kyle. It read, "Saw your talk. Powerful stuff. I always knew you had a voice, man. Proud of you. Let's catch up soon." I stared at it for a few seconds, then deleted it without replying. Because I finally understood something. I do not need their approval. Not Kyle's. Not Kelly's. Not Seth's. Not my mother's. Not the school's. Not anyone's who only showed up when it was easy to smile. They only remembered me when I became someone they could brag about knowing. But I remember who I was when no one clapped. And that version of me, the quiet, scared, determined kid who kept going anyway, he is the only one I will ever owe anything to. So I walked away from that building. No audience. No applause. Just peace. And I never looked back.